Thank you. Hello. I just want to say one thing. Brendan outdid me with the engineering terminal slides. I got to up my game. My background is engineering. I'm a software engineer. I head up the engineering delivery at Convert Digital, and I also founded a Shopify app called Checkout Components. So, as I'm sure you can imagine, what everyone's going through right now with the disruption of AI and how it's impacting services, etc., and particularly engineering, I'm probably feeling it the most. So, really quick question: who's vibe coding at the moment that's not an engineer? Fair amount of people. Okay, cool. So I wanted to focus on the concept of hype versus opportunity or hype versus value. Part of my role, leading quite a large engineering team, is kind of being a bit of a policeman for non-technical individuals, particularly around where we use AI in different services, or how we use AI with our clients, and also software engineering. So I'm conscious that not everyone here, well, not a lot of people here, have an engineering background, so I'm going to focus as much as I can on not software. But the question that I want to go back to is, does this move the needle for the agency or the merchant? So this might be a little bit interactive. I'm going to ask you hype or value. You can raise your hand for hype or value. So Sidekick for store operations. So who thinks this is hype or value? Raise your hand for hype. Hype? Wrong. Value. I really have deep dived in Sidekick recently on Shopify quite intensely, and it's actually genuinely surprising for Shopify merchants. You can ask it a lot of questions, and it's led at Convert Digital. We've got an internal library. I'm going to talk about internal tool development for agencies, but one of the things that I would say is there are generic questions that you can ask it, like, what are my top selling products, or what do I do with these alt tags? But you can be way more specific. So internally, from a development perspective, from a CRO perspective, we're asking very, very specific questions. And I wanted to show you an example of what those look like. And I'm not going to read this out because it's quite long, but it's the structure that's important. So step one, this is the opportunity or the thing that I'm interested in. 2 is asking Sidekick to actually benchmark it against industry standards of what's available publicly online or what Shopify might know underneath the hood. And then, okay, cool, so recommend specific Shopify optimized strategies. And then specify the output format. So rather than just saying, show me something generic or what can I build in my theme or what app can I install to solve this problem, it's being quite specific. And what I would say is if you do have the ability to build something, whether it's through Claude or something like that, or Lovable, building a repository for your broader team to actually access all of these prompts is really, really useful because you can start curating it rather than people coming up with their own questions specific to their client. AI code reviews, this is the only really engineering specific one. I'm just going to jump to value. One of the things that we've always had to deal with in engineering is the concept of, I've got a junior developer or a mid-level developer, I've just finished coding something. Senior, can you now review my code and tell me why it's bad? And that takes a lot of time, particularly when you've got a large engineering team. So one of the things that I'm very passionate about is bringing in AI, not necessarily to find bugs or anything like that, but actually give feedback on, is this well structured? Is it consistent with the repository? So on a number of different repositories that we work with, we use a tool called CodeRabbit, and in others we use Claude. But the idea of it is to free up the time of your seniors. So your senior engineers, they're expensive, they're very smart, they should be focusing on the big problems, not necessarily reviewing that initial draft of a code change. So at Convert, the opportunity here for us was very much, okay, we know that there's going to be a large amount of code being shipped. With AI, effectively that means that code's being shipped faster, and it puts more of an emphasis on the person that's reviewing the code, which is actually kind of scary. There used to be a responsibility of the individual that was creating that code. I've reviewed it, I've tested it, but what's actually happening is it's completely flipped. So now it's, okay, I've used AI to generate code, and I'm going to submit this pull request, and if the senior that's reviewing that code doesn't catch the bug, then it's like, well, then who reviewed it? So I would say for the initial review, it saves a lot of time and it frees up senior engineers. AI-generated tickets. I'm very passionate about this. Hype or value? Hype? Raise your hands. Hype? Definite hype. This is something that we've explored, and the problem with trying to generate tickets or tasks from clients is that clients need to be able to express their problems clearly. And often when you're talking to different businesses, you'll get one response or one question from someone on the client's team, and you'll go talk to someone else and they'll describe it completely different. So the promise is that you can basically get off a call, put a transcript into Claude and say, okay, well, write me a ticket explaining what this actual problem is. And from what we've seen, basically what happens is that it creates a giant JIRA ticket with acceptance criteria and edge cases that don't actually really exist. It doesn't understand the tech stack. And basically what it does is it promotes when you've got AI tickets being generated, AI code being generated, you basically just create slop. So this is actually something that I'm very passionate about, and we've basically pretty much banned the use of using AI to just bulk take in requests. But it is really good at identifying, okay, well, what is the overall structure of the problem? And what can we use to identify, the specific areas that we can go in and use AI to get a better idea? So I think it's a really good tool for BAs to capture the high-level pieces. Internal tool development, I see this as a bit of an opportunity, but it's something that needs to be controlled. And one of the biggest things I would say is that if you're an AI-enabled business and you've given your team members AI, there's probably a lot of projects that they're all working on that you don't know about. And someone might be trying to solve a problem that 3 other people in the business are trying to solve. So the piece of advice that I would say, and this is something that I learned pretty quickly, is to have an internal register and have a process where you can say, okay, cool, you now have access to AI, you have a problem that you're passionate about, or that you've identified, whether it sits within a process in the business or a problem that a client has. Make everyone else aware that you're working on that problem. And if there's someone else that's in the business that's interested in that problem too, collaborate on it. And I would also say have some form of approval process, because you don't want an account manager going, I'm going to build this internal pipeline tool and it's going to be awesome. Because what happens is basically it takes team members away from actually solving problems for merchants or your clients, and they get obsessed with building some internal tool that probably won't be used. And I would encourage you to have a review process of those tools that people are building. And the beautiful thing about AI is you can move really, really quickly, and there's less attachment to those internal tools. So you can decide, that's not working, let's kill it. Let's move on to the next one. And then also ensure that every single internal piece of work, particularly coming from non-technical individuals, has an owner and has someone that is technical involved, particularly when there's infrastructure decisions that as part of the stack. A couple of other things that I would say, the recent ship or product update from Claude and Shopify. For those who don't know, you can basically connect Claude into a Shopify merchant store. I see that as a massive risk. I think it's good from okay, we can read certain pieces of information and get data from what's happening with conversion and all these other different things. But it also has the ability to do mutation of data. So Shopify has a really, really high-level auditing tool. So in theory, someone could hook up Claude to a Shopify store and accidentally say, "Oh, delete all the products that have this problem," and it would actually do that in production. The other thing that I'm finding myself use more and more is actually, we use Gemini notes for meetings. Taking those notes and actually having a template of processing that into whether it's an internal log of decisions, or perhaps it's meeting with a merchant, whatever our key sort of points that we want to take away from that. I'm sure everyone's doing it, but I think that's another piece. Yeah, so to wrap up, Sidekick, if your team's not using Sidekick to get insights on actual stores, whether it's from a CRO perspective, a code perspective, a conversion perspective, I think it's incredibly valuable. One of the things that we did recently at Checkout Components actually was we shipped an update on Muscle Nation in Black Friday. It was mid-Black Friday last year. And I asked Sidekick, okay, well, how has this product the product had an impact on this store? And Sidekick, going through all of the data, which I was able to do in about 5 minutes, basically said, okay, well, the conversion of that checkout's gone up by 4.81%. You know, did you make a change to checkout, which I thought was pretty cool. So you can do that specific to install times, updates, theme deploys, how has this impacted, you know, add to cart rates, etc. AI code review, obviously very, very good. And yeah, Gemini note taking and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's me. Thank you.